With all you love-festing birds, get to your places, please. It's a good month for it. You never guess where I've been. I'm still in New Orleans. So it's such an auspicious moment. It's such an auspicious time and day. For now, this day, all over the world, where there are religious science centers, for the very first time, we are all celebrating being centers for spiritual living. The reunion is complete. We've been apart since 1957, and we've come back together again. There is no more United Centers for Spiritual Living. There is no more International Centers for Spiritual Living. There is only Centers for Spiritual Living. And let me tell you, for that to happen, 10 years of solid work behind us and 3 years of intense, deep work. But the work wasn't done necessarily through discussions and through endless teleconference calls and through endless get-togethers for discussions over this, that, and the other. The way it happened was the way all good happens. We fell back in love again with each other as two groups. As we worked and worked and worked on all of the things we had to work on, we got to know each other more, and we began to fall in love with each other, and eventually we were able to make the impossible happen only because of one thing. We loved each other, and we no longer wanted to be apart. So we both sides made whatever sacrifices we had to make in order to come back together again as the one family we were always meant to be. And I'm sure that Ernest Holmes, wherever he is dancing at least a jig, if not doing a little jazz, because we were in New Orleans, you know, as that happened. It was a glorious thing, it is a glorious thing, and now here we are united, one again. So now we are ready to be an example in the world. Now we are ready for what it is we have to share to expand, because until now we were not a good example of unity. And we were in the hotel with a group last week of a huge group of Methodist ministers and another huge Christian youth group. And one of our ministers was talking in the elevator to one of the Methodist ministers, sharing what was going on because he was asked. And the Methodist minister looked at him and he said, "My goodness, what's going on with you is absolutely the result of amazing grace. It's a miracle, because that just doesn't happen. It's very rare that groups, once they split up like that, get together again, and it's even rarer when spiritual groups split up that they get together again." So he was saluting us for creating this wonderful miracle, and thus it is. And so a new day is dawning, and there's a new way for us to be. And in that, there is a beautiful example for each and every one of us as individuals as we enter into more fully an understanding and awareness of the calling that each one of us has, the purpose of our being, and why it is that we're here at all. And so, as you know, our vision and mission for this year in our center is to declare 2012 as a year of peace, and to establish that peace through the sharing of our abundance. In January, we did that through living the principles of science of mind and being that in the world. February, we're embodying what it is to be love in the world and sharing that in the world. But as we go through that adventure, we have to come to realize love at a deeper level, because very few people, very few of us know how to truly love. And yet, it's a longing within each and every one of us to return back to what we know, which is love, which is a force to be reckoned with. And each one of us can be a revealer of that life, that light, that love that lives in us and through us and has its being. So, it is given to you and it is given to me to be all that we are created to be it all, not a little bit less, but to be it all and that is love personified. That's the meaning of Emmanuel, God with us, life with us. To be that force, to be that power, to be that gravity in life and living, without teaching and preaching and all of that nonsense, it's to be lived quietly and silently and deliciously and coming from an inner peace and an inner joy that fills us. That's the best way we can show up to be love in the world. If only we could know love, my dear ones. If only we could know love, then we could be it, and then everything would be all right, as the song says. To be that free is truly desirous for us all. And of course, there is no love without freedom. We have to be free to love. And I'm not talking about physical freedom, I'm not talking about, political freedom, not talking about any of that. I'm talking about personal freedom that arises out of being emotionally and mentally free. Until we are emotionally and mentally free, we don't know much of anything with regard to love. Because love is freedom, freedom is love. And what keeps us stopped, what keeps us blocked from our good is this emotional and mental attachment to all things that smack of ego. Ego that is still scared, frightened, afraid, and out of balance. It's your job, it's my job to keep our egos assuaged, to keep our egos at peace, to keep our egos centered, to keep our egos in balance. And when that happens, everything flows so beautifully. But our attachments to our mental and emotional stoppages and blockages is what creates all kinds of havoc in our lives and living. And that emotional freedom is what we need. That mental freedom is what we need in order to know love, to be love, in order to see only love and hear only love and speak only love and act as love alone. That's not going to happen without emotional and mental freedom. What are those emotional and mental blockages? There are many. I'll reduce them to the 4 major ones that the Buddhists talk about. 1 being anger, 2 being jealousy, 3 being despair, and 4 being delusion. They call these the 4 great poisons in Buddhism. And they really keep us mentally and emotionally bound, or any negative emotion. I can't hone in on all 4 this morning, we'd be here forever. We'll just touch a little bit upon anger. Every single person in the world is angry about something or another. Whether knowingly or not, everybody is angry about something or another. It's in the air. People breathe it in and breathe it out. It gets caught. Little small children pick it up from their parents and from the adults around them, and older children and so on and so forth. So we have to come to terms with that and understand that's just not going to work for us. Anger will not work for us. Where there is anger, there is absolutely no communication, and there never can be. Anger stops and blocks communication. As I was saying this morning, you can bawl and shout and holler and dictate when you're in anger, but you can't communicate. That's impossible. It is lack of communication that keeps us separate from each other. Lack of communication keeps us separate from each other, apart from each other. Always missing each other. Missing each other. Anger. Anger. And when that anger goes deep enough, it turns into resentment and bitterness, and then, oh my, then you've got an experience of hell. That's what hellfire and brimstone is. Your deep, seething resentment and bitterness. That's what that is. So what is it that's calling us here today to come above that, to be able to release that, to let go of that? Can we? Yes, we can. We have to, though, take it upon ourselves to make a covenant with ourselves, to make a promise to ourselves that we're going to keep and move upon that. And that will take a process, that will take some time. Oh, okay, if you want to be in the land of those who are going to do it like that, like Paul on his white horse, fall off, and then he gets up a whole new man. Very good. But let me tell you, that'll take a long time for us all to get to that point where we're ready to fall off our white charger. So I say, welcome the process. Welcome drip by drip by drip, step by step by step. Now, there's always one little thing you and I can do. There's no excuses. We can do one or two little things, that's all. The beginning is one or two things. Choose a thing, start on that. When you finish that, go on to the next and the next and the next. That's the way we make steady, solid progress and become spiritually skilled, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say. Never tells anybody they're wrong or anything like that. He'd always say, oh, just lacks a little spiritual skill. Well, anyway, looking at this thing called anger, it's got to be dissipated before you and I can become the lovers that we're created to be. Isn't that interesting? We're created to be lovers, and yet we'd resist it. Oh, I don't think so. Pass on. We'd rather hang on to our resentments, our grouses, our grudges, and always have somebody to complain about or blame. But we in this room today are in this room today because we want something more than that. We want something more than that. We want to be the best that we can be. We want to be able to manage our lives with grace, with ease and peace and joy in loving relationships and through a great deal of creative expression, because we can. It's given to us to do that. So how do we get to it? How do we get to it? We get to it, as the old song says, through a closer walk with Thee. We get to it only by surrendering ourselves, by giving ourselves up and handing ourselves over to divine providence, knowing that it can take care of all our needs, and it can be the light unto our path. It can be the lamp unto our feet. It can indeed take us where our souls want us to go. Not our egos, but where our souls want us to go. It certainly can. So the first thing is surrender. You tell that to a bunch of control freaks. I'm telling you, we were in the elevators that have no internal buttons. The buttons are on the outside, and you just plug in the floor you want to go. Every single one walks in, and they're looking for the buttons. Where's the button? I want to press the button. Where's the button? And that's how we are. It's already been taken care of. We've been taken care of. We don't have to look for buttons, press buttons. We'll just relax, and up we go. Or down we go, as the case may be, in the elevator. But no, we want to be in charge of the buttons. So, surrender doesn't come easy, my dear ones, in any form of life, in any shape, way, make, or form, but it's the only way. It's the only way to become spiritually skilled. To surrender what? The stoppages and the blockages that are created by a frightened, scared ego. That's what we're asked to surrender. Nothing more than that. Well, the ego has already staked its claim. It's already built its castle and fortified it and says, no one shall enter here. So brick by brick by brick, we have to dismantle that castle of fear and release it and let it go and surrender ourselves to the divine creative force that lives, moves, and has its being within us. Here we are imprisoned by our emotions, by our mentality. Our jailers being, of course, anger and jealousy and despair and delusion, etc., etc., etc. And we choose, although we're living in this palatial energy, to go to the dungeons and chain ourselves in and strap ourselves in and not come out and come above and enter the kingdom that is prepared for us always. And it can happen like that. Decision that you make in your mind and back it up by the help and the power and the force of that intuitive intelligence within you that knows exactly how to bring you through out into that freedom, so that you can indeed know yourself, discover life for the first time. We have to stop breathing air and thinking about I'm breathing in air, I'm breathing out there, and realize we're breathing in grace, we're breathing in spirit, we're breathing out spirit, we're breathing out grace. We have to know that that power that we're breathing in and breathing out can take us on home. Anytime we decide to go home, it can be that amazing vehicle that will take us there with grace, with ease, in peace, in joy, in loving relationship, and through creative expression. There's no other way for you to live. There's no other way for me to live except in peace, in joy, with grace, with ease, in loving relationship and through creative expression. That's your birthright. That's your inheritance, and that is your entitlement, and mine too. So when I have this palatial experience of life to experience, why is it that I keep locking myself up in the dungeon of negativity that stops me and blocks me from realizing all that good and stops me from being on my purposeful path and realizing the truth of my being? What is that? For each one of us is going to be different. We are addicted. Every single one of us is addicted, and don't believe for a moment there are people among us who are not addicted. We're all addicted to something or another. And as I shared this morning, the simple definition of addiction is something you cannot stop. Something you cannot stop, or won't stop, or choose not to stop. Something you just keep doing and doing and doing, regardless of what you know or what you don't know. You just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and you won't stop. That's what addiction is. I'm not going to spell out what addictions are. I'll be here until the end of time. But you know your own things that you will not stop, that you keep doing and doing and doing and doing over and over again, and that are not working for you. This week, part of our homework is to look at that and to see, is there one thing in my life I could stop now that would help my life be transformed? Is there just one thing I could stop this week that would help my life transform? Just one thing. Start with one thing and then move on. One thing. That's all you're being asked of. Of course, the way that we move from this awareness of the purposeful nature of our being in our loving is through compassion. Love and compassion. Compassion. What is compassion? Compassion is simply co-communion. Co-union. Compassion is the ability for me to step out of my shoes, put myself in your shoes, and as you are sharing with me and I am deeply listening, I am having your sense and sensibility, and I understand where it is you are coming from, and I am filled with a sense of kindness toward you, care toward you, good auspices toward you, and my heart is filled with love for you. Silence is golden indeed, and in order to be a deep, deep listener, it takes practice, takes time, and it takes silence for us to become good listeners. I would recommend to every one of us to take one day when we commit to going into retreat, retreat ourselves to a sense of ourselves as that which is unfolding the greatness and the goodness of life itself. And in that day, no CDs, no tapes, no books, nothing except a notebook, a pen, and yourself. And listen. And as you listen, you might want to write down something. That's all. Go into the silence. Be with that which is living its being in you, through you, and as you. Just listening, listening to the presence, listening to the presence all day long, in everything and in everyone. No aids. No aids. Just you, your pen, and your book, and listen and see what happens. It's a transforming experience. It truly is a transforming experience. Listen. When coming home on the plane the other night, we had a medical emergency. A lady 2 rows behind, 2 seats behind me, collapsed flat on the ground. Luckily, we had a first responder there, a person in the medical business. However, there were 7 ministers on that plane, including Dr. Sue Rubin and Dr. Maureen Hoyt. We knew that all was well, and we knew that lady would, even though all the paraphernalia, the oxygen and everything else, and she was laid out flat and blah, 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 we knew she would be walking off that plane, and she did. How? Through going into the silence when everybody else was anxious and eager and antsy. We went into the silence. We formed a chamber of prayer. We went into silence. We knew for that woman what needed to be known for that woman, for her to be able to get up, get off that plane, and get the care that she needed. So I'm saying to each and every one of us here today, myself very much included, there is a way, but there's only one way. And the way is that deeper, closer connection with Source, an implicit trust in Source, and an amazing open receptivity to Source, so that you and I can let go of our anger and all the rest of it, so that we can listen to each other in a way that the other person, the other, the one in the other, can feel heard and honored and given a place to express in safety whatever it is that weighs upon them, because each and every one of us suffers and each and every one of us is in pain. And what the Buddhists mean by that is that it is our emotional and our mental attachments that create and cause that pain and suffering. We all are in suffering, we all are in pain. Remember that when you're with people. To some degree or another, everybody suffers, everybody's in pain. To some degree or another, everybody's imprisoned by anger, to some degree or another. When we are in each other's company, we've got to know that. We've got to honor that, and we've got to respect that. And we, with our whole hearts, our whole soul, our whole power, and our whole mind, need to be present, listening at the deep level and honoring what it is we are hearing. So that that person, by the time they have finished sharing, are already in the process of their healing, because they know they have been recognized. That's what you and I are going to be doing this week. Pay attention to something in this sharing that has jumped out at you that you could do this week. If you need to get the CD to remind you, but pay attention to whatever touched your heart, wherever you said to yourself, I can do that this week. Pay attention to it and follow through. There is no other way for this world to heal. There is no other way for peace to come to this world except by means of you. There is no love to be had in this world except from you. There is no other way. That's the way it's going to happen. Governments, groups, parties of this and parties of that, and councils of this and councils of that, they can't do it. It's every single one of us open and receptive in every conscious moment that we can arrive at. Every conscious moment that we can be in throughout our day. And throughout our day, we need to tune in and re-surrender ourselves to a power that is greater than we are, and a power that is love personified, compassion personified, peace personified, light personified, and all the other great good you can think of personified. A power and a presence that's there at your service, willing to give from itself always copiously, endlessly, to you and through you and by you. But it must be invited. It will not come uninvited. It must be invited. You are in the midst of a presence that is forever courting you. And the way life happens for us at its best and highest point is by courting back the presence. It's not that the Spirit doesn't court us all the time, every moment of every day, for the rest of eternity. We just simply don't court back. We've got to bring the two together. Two energies joined. And joined is the way we need to be. So this week is the week that things could really turn around for some of us in this room, or all of us in this room, as the case may be, so that you and I can have that experience of what it is to be loved so deeply that we are capable of loving right back. Are you on? Yes. Are you willing? Yes. Are you able? Yes. When do you think that's going to happen? Now. Do we have a commitment for now? Yes. Say it again. I am ready now. Ready now. Say it again. I am ready now. Say it again. To be love. to see love, to hear love, to speak love, to express love. And so it is.